Well, I wonder if anybody had any thoughts on this. And if we look really closely at the front of that tree, you can see what looks like one half of it here. See the one in the white, where it's all got white on the bottom, like a mould that's grown up. And then we have this, the top half of it, which is stuck upside down in the ground. It's clearly stuck upside down. See if I can show you a bit more closely. Look at the bottom of the roots there. That is actually firmly wedged. I've tried to move it, just wobble it. Can't wobble it. That must be several feet in the ground. It's unusual, isn't it? I'm just going to see if I can show you a size sort of thing on there. If I stand beside it, you can kind of see my hand on top of it, to the side there. That's just bizarre, really bizarre. It's completely stuck in the ground. It's rotten. So, I have asked the question, I have asked what the purpose of that tree being snapped off and placed upside down in the ground is. And straight away, a Fenian told me it's reverse energy. So I said, what is reverse energy? And her explanation is, instead of taking energy, as all of these tree signals and structures we see do, they take energy from the ground or from the stars. This is putting energy back into the ground. It's like having a whole bunch of solar panels in a field and then feeding that energy into your national grid. Their national grid, in this particular case, is below ground, and that tree, that half of tree, is gathering energy from the moon. It is lunar energy. And as you may remember, there is a network of roots, branches, fungi, everything communicating underground from trees, all the things that live underground, roots and vines and things, and they all take from this energy. We are obsessed with solar energy because we see the sun up in the sky and know we can take power from it. We're forgetting about lunar energy. So this may be a little food for thought. An upside down tree planted extremely firmly in the ground. see if I can show you the other tree, and you can see how high that is. I actually think that's around about 12 to 14 feet high. And that's its upside down counterpart beside it. Does that look familiar? I think it does. And if I turn the camera around behind me, that's almost as tall as me, that break. Up here, we're back up to these sort of shapes. Tree-lean shapes, and if you look dead centre, they produce enough energy to give us a face. I can see a face very clearly in there. I don't know whether you guys can. See if we can find it in the edit. I am still of the belief that a lot of these tree structures, stick creations, are duplicating and replicating the shape of constellations. And I think if we were to write them and draw each one down, we might have a constellation, however obscure to us, but might be less obscure to them. Okay, two delta shapes, and right below it, underneath it, another upside down V. Well, I'm not sure how much of this you may or may not be able to see, but I thought I need to try and get some of it on documented. There's a definite footprint there. There's a side here, and the toes here, and the side here. Narrower. There was a faint one there. I can't really follow it. I wonder if it helps if I switch my flashlights off. I thought perhaps it might be advantageous to have them on, but maybe not. It's maybe better without them. It's hard to see. See that? It's about waist high for me. I've just put the flashlight on because I don't want it to be too gloomy for you. It looks kind of beautiful, doesn't it? In light. This, I think, is quite remarkable. And anybody who knows anything about Fodark will be able to check it out. And they will be able to look it up. I'm going to show you. Look at that. some leaners. What do you think, folks? It's really not very big. It's not very big at all. If I put my hand there and then put my hand just below it, tell you what, that is so... I don't want to tap it. It's so delicately held on. So it's bent up, then down, then back up. And it's just the lightest. It's just actually propped against, with a Y stick at the end, against the side of the tree. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Moon Moth. I thought this week we would have a look at some of the shapes. This is very funny. Every time I start to talk in this area, there's a deer. If it really is a deer. And you just hear the hoofs, and then he's off. Last week he was behind me, over this way. But anyways, we'll carry on. So I want to bring you this area and we'd have a little look at some of the tree shapes here. That upside down tree, that's really interesting. Have a look at that. And then we've got all this sort of delta shape. They're really interesting as well. The fuzz arc shapes. And my thought was, what if these are all connected to the shapes of the constellations? So what I'm going to do is also, with the Fenians' blessing, I asked a few weeks ago if they would now give a new name to this area. And we called it Moon Moth, obviously, and Moon Moth North. The whole area will still be Moon Moth, but this little particular bit. And so I asked a Fenian and I said, what name would you like to give it? And she showed me a butterfly. It's like a butterfly. And I said, well, butterfly or papillon? Papillon. So that's what it's going to be, papillon. So when you think about what a butterfly does, it comes out of this cocoon, this pupa comes out of the cocoon, and that sounded like pooper, didn't it? Like pupa, pupae, not pooper. I can't say pooper, can I? Oh dear. Should I cut that? Pupae. I'm going to start giggling. Like the pupa. I have to try and pronounce that correctly, because when I was thinking about this, I'm thinking poopa, poopa. I don't think I can say poopa. It has to be pupae, pupa. Poopa is something entirely different. I keep hearing what sounds like footsteps coming towards me. Right, so I've just asked if some of the family are around or are near, are walking closer, and I got the sense that they were gathering round. I can't see anything, all I can see are trees. But I got a distinct feeling of movement coming towards me from over here. Now last week I was standing over there and I could hear a deer over here. I could see him behind the trees, and they bolt off. The minute you try to go towards them, they bolt off, and then they just hide behind the trees and watch you. But this is different. It's not a deer. But anyway, these ginormous squirrels that live in this forest. I'm being silly. So they come out like new life out of a cocoon, a butterfly, papillon. So it's the birth of something new. And I thought, well, that's fantastic. And as forever, always with these people, they're always absolutely on point. They'll choose a certain word that can mean nothing else. Can mean nothing else, but that describes it exactly. On that point, I am just going to show you. I'll take the camera and point it in different areas of the forest, because you don't want to look at me. I'm going to tell you something, a story. Okay. So I was heading to my sleep one night. I looked at my clock, and it was just before 11 o'clock at night. And I needed to be up really early, so I was desperate to try and get a good night's sleep. And as I drifted off, I suddenly felt I was on a journey. I was being shown all sorts of things, and it was almost like a journey of my life. What my life is or should be, almost like a altered life, a different life. I was seeing all sorts of people. I'm chatting in a room with them, aware of who they are, and it was a family, in different guises as human people, and my journey and the things I did and decisions I had to make. And then suddenly I woke up, and I looked at the clock, and I thought, I've slept in. It must be 6 o'clock in the morning. There's so much detail and information within that. And when I woke up, I looked at the clock, and it was just after 11. I was tapping the clock, thinking there's something wrong with it. I looked at my phone. Nope, it was just after 11. Maybe I'd got the time wrong when I went to sleep. It was really very, very strange. So I asked Dacia Gaia, and I said, what happened there? And I said, I feel like I have been and stepped into a different time zone where there is no time, where no time matters, and you can see everything at once. And he said, it's a sidestep, it's a sidestep. And he then described it as being like a pleat in fabric. So the image he gave me in my head was like a kilt, which with a kilt you have where your tummy, if you like, where the part of your tummy is, it's stitched down. The pleats are stitched down flat, and then the stitching stops, and then the pleat opens up and splays out. So there is a gap, like a triangular gap, tunnel of triangular material that you don't really see until you walk. And he described it just like that, a sidestep. So you can go sidestep into that pleat, you can move all the way along that pleat, backwards and forwards, and then you come back in to our time. It's just a sidestep. But our time hasn't changed. And I said, but I felt like I had been there hours. And he said, years. Except it wasn't years. I said, how long was I really in that space? He said, in your time, no more, no less than 20 seconds. So I think this is how they sort of explain about time and slippages in time. Our time, we measure time by a clock. So maybe this is Earth's time, the time of Gaia, the time of the universe. It doesn't really have a time in the way we measure it. We measure it because we could just measure our day by sunrise and sunset, and our weeks and months by their level and height of the sun in the sky, and how short our days are, how long our days are. But this is a completely different thing, and I've never experienced anything like it, but just showing me that all time is now. It's not next week. It's not another world. It's not 2 years' time. The time that we live in is now. All time is now. It's only human beings that measure time differently. Animals don't. So it's just an interesting thought, and I was fascinated by it. Okay, we'll put some things out for the family in this area, I think. Well, I'm just leaving everything in place here for them. And there's some dates on here, some peanut butter, some walnuts, some hazelnuts and some peanuts. And I've left it here because right in the middle of all of this is a Lena, small Lena. And in January, it is, at the start of January, there was Broxer, who was Faber Sequoia's father. It was his birthday. And also, it is Faber's birthday this month. So I thought, as a little treat for them, that we fetch some little cakes. You can see there, they're little like butterfly bun type things, and I'm sure that they might enjoy those. So I'm just going to leave them in there. I've got some apples up on the tree. See if I can show you those. There you are. And I think what we'll do is we'll head off, and I want to say thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you for sticking with us, and we will refer to this area now as Papillon, and thanks to Athenian for that. So we're losing the sunlight, so we'll head off. Thank you, folks. See you next time. Bye.